As 30 years ago, today we have a Renault Scenic that claims to reinvent what a family car ought to be. Today's Scenic E-Tech Electric isn't so much of an MPV, instead it's an EV less restricted by the shackles of the crossover genre pursued by its rivals, but with the fashion sense, the practicality and the price tag to appeal to a mass market.
Renault is a different company these days, and it produces different and rather more expressive cars, like this one, the Scenic E-Tech Electric. Is this a new form of family vehicle, as its maker claims? Well, the originating Scenic model line certainly was, on sale between 1998 and 2022, with a name derived from an ambitious acronym, safety concept embodied in a new innovative car. Over 53 million original Scenics were sold, with over 2 million still on the road. But those are compact MPVs, basically variations of the Megane family hatch with extra space and versatility. This new era full battery Scenic E-Tech Electric is the same but different. Once more, it's a swollen version of the accompanying Megane, the Megane E-Tech Electric, with which it shares its CMF EV platform. But this time, the Scenic isn't really an MPV, and perhaps more notably, it isn't really an SUV or a crossover either. And that is significant because that's what nearly all its lower mid-sized EV crossover rivals are trying to be. Instead, it's something in between people carrier, family hatch and SUV. So an indecisive or potentially innovative solution. You'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test, of course, to find that out. It all looks very futuristic, doesn't it? Although by modern standards, the driver interface isn't. Unlike Tesla, Renault thinks you need a gear selector, a starter button and a handbrake switch, and the car doesn't sense your seated presence. So as OpenR graphics fill the two screens ahead of you, you have to physically power up, which energizes the unusual slashed three-part instrument screen you view through this curiously shaped wheel. You're ready, but for what? Well, not an electric driving experience in terms of overly urgent forward thrust, but a surprisingly well sorted one. In terms of handling dynamics, there's a temptation to expect a big spacious Renault like this one to handle like a wobbly confection from the sweet trolley, but there's none of that here. The brand has carried over the same quick, darty steering ratio from the Megane E-Tech, which makes the car feel quite agile, and considerable effort's also been put into managing body roll. No adaptive damping system is offered here, but Renault claims correctly that the multi-link rear axle provides a good compromise between comfort and dynamics. We've found it a suppler setup than is offered by this model's great French rival, Peugeot's E3008, although the ride can get unsettled at speed over particularly choppy surfaces. The original 90s Scenic was actually first called the Megane Scenic, a reference to the fact that all its mechanicals were shared with that Renault hatch. That is largely the case here too. Predictably, the Scenic E-Tech Electric uses the same CMF EV platform as its Megane E-Tech stablemate and the Nissan Ariya, and in base form, what looks like the same 60 kWh comfort range battery too, although Renault claims that the lithium-ion cells used here use different denser 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹liche nickel manganese cobalt technology, which ought to make the entry model's claimed 261-mile range figure a bit more achievable than the pie-in-the-sky WLTP rated stat claimed for the Megane. The base Scenic variant's 170 HP electric motor, though, is only just about enough to push along 1,757 kilograms of gallic real estate. The stats say 62 in 8.6 seconds en route to 93 miles an hour. That is another reason why nearly all Scenic customers will prefer the 87 kilowatt-hour long-range battery model that we're trying here today. Now here there is around 100 kilos more weight, but that's more than compensated for by an increase in electric motor output to 200 horsepower. It's a front-mounted motor. Unlike most of its rivals, this Renault can't be had in any kind of dual motor form, and when you engage the most urgent of the 4 provided multi-sense drive modes, that's the red-themed Sport, the 62 miles an hour sprint time is improved to 7.9 seconds and the top speed rises to just under 106 miles an hour. There's no huge acceleration downside though in selecting from the other less frantic settings, Comfort, Eco and Perso, so you'll probably want to stay with those and save on your drive range. Also aided in winter conditions by the standard heat pump, which draws warmth from the climate system from surrounding ambient air. Steering wheel paddles allow you to adjust between 4 levels of brake regeneration, with the fiercest setting noticeably slowing you off throttle, and that's ideal for keeping the battery energized in urban use and also for keeping you somewhere near to the claimed and very competitive 379-mile range figure. Town travel is where you can benefit from Renault's decision to offer a choice of 3 pedestrian warning sound formats. You'll probably stick to the quite appealing Jean-Michel Jarre curated sound option because the alternative settings, expressive, sounds like a tube train, and neutral effectively turns the thing off. It's also worth mentioning actually that the town turning circle is a handily tight 10.9 meters. And unlike some other EVs, this one won't be totally hopeless at towing. Brake towing capacity is rated at 1,100 kilos. Beyond the city limits, as we've said, is where this Renault acquits itself quite well, helped by the low centre of gravity from that centrally mounted battery pack that's situated low down in the car's new AMP-R medium EV platform. The throttle and the brakes are well calibrated too. As with most, although not all actually, of this car's EV rivals, you'll have to get used to a relative lack of steering feel at speed through the tight turns, but highway compensation comes in the form of hushed refinement, aided by acoustic window glass and what the brand calls the smart cocoon, a patented new generation absorbent material which insulates the battery from the passenger compartment. We have noticed a bit of tyre roar though. Longer trips will also be potentially eased by the currently required degree of semi-autonomous drive tech. 2 such systems feature here. Active Driver Assist combines adaptive cruise control, stop and go and lane centering to adapt to the road. And at low speeds, like in a traffic jam, the lane centering setup can be adjusted by the driver to keep the vehicle to one side of the road to ease the passage of emergency vehicles. There is also an intelligent contextual adaptive cruise control system, and that can automatically adjust the vehicle speed to account for the distance between this Renault and other cars. This intelligent function pairs geolocation data with a dedicated map so that the vehicle can predictively adapt to the road ahead and plan for upcoming roundabouts, turns and speed limit changes. Everything then that you'd expect from a thoroughly modern mid-sized family EV. Renault did take its time bringing us this car, but you might feel it's been well worth the wait. What exactly is this car? Well, not even Renault seems to quite know. Because the Scenic E-Tech has a long bonnet and lacks high wheel gaps, you can see it's deliberately trying not to be an SUV, more of a kind of cross between a hatchback and an SUV, but with the kind of interior space of an MPV, thanks to a longer wheelbase length than most models of this size. The styling from ex-Peugeot designer 𝗙elle 𝗙lle draws on the company's new visual language. Now that means curvy bodywork, high-tech design elements and sharp character lines. There is a profile reference to the monobox shape of the original 90s Scenic, but you'd have to squint a bit to see it. Size-wise, this is of course a much bigger car than that old MPV. It's almost 4.5 metres in length, but just 1.57 metres in height, with a wheel at each corner stance and short overhangs. The silver highlighted lower black cladding panel offers a crossover vibe, and the angular silver D-pillar treatment, which flows into silver upper framing for the glass house, that's neatly executed. You can have this contrast coloured diamond black roof, the specially designed door mirrors. These can be ordered in various colours. There are flush-fitting door handles, and to suit the current trend, there are big aero-fashioned lightweight alloy rims of either 19 inches or, as in this case, 20 inches in size. If you don't like the look of these alloys here, you can take the covers off them to reveal a different style underneath, but apparently if you do that, it'll cost you 12 miles of range because of the loss of the aerodynamic efficiency. The front champions a particularly modern look. The nose features the latest vertical Nouvelle R Renault logo, positioned amongst an array of superimposed small diamonds, which appear or disappear depending on the light and the angle. These patterns merge into the slim Renault branded LED headlights at the top of the grille, and that creates a particularly high-tech effect. These lamps feature adaptive vision technology. There are angular vertical daytime running lights which combine with the indicators on each corner, air curtains to maximise aerodynamic efficiency, and a wide lower black intake above a silver lower strip. At the rear, the high-tech LED lights are styled like two arrows, sculpted to dispel drag and have smoked lenses. A micro-optical technology brings them to life when they're activated, yet they appear to float when they're switched off. Now, Renault's resisted the current trend of stretching these lamps across the entire width of the tailgate. Instead, they have an embossed Renault logo at the centre and a lower E-Tech badge. The bumper has a silver highlight strip above slim lower reflectors, and there's a subtle sculpted roof spoiler with a shark fin antenna just beyond. So, futuristic to look at, and the signs are good that it'll also feel that way inside. As you walk up to the car, the rather flimsy feeling door handles pop out to greet you as you're treated to a carefully curated welcome sequence with dance-like LED headlight beams. Take a seat behind the wheel and you'll note the SUV-like raised driving position and the way that the angled centre console cocoons you into a drive position which is predictably dominated by the open R digital cockpit twin screen arrangement that we first saw in the Megane E-Tech. As with that car, this is a sustainability zone stripped of leather with surfaces like this unusual fascia fabric fashioned from recycled plastic bottles. Overall, the cockpit area is 26% fashioned from recycled plastic, and around 80% of the dashboard materials are recycled. If you're not a card-carrying member of the Green Party, and after the kind of luxury that this car's asking price might lead you to expect, then you might struggle to find all of this too appealing. But Renault's managed to create quite a trendy ambience here that tries its best to reset your premium perceptions. Perhaps it tries a little too hard, but no shortage of stylistic effort's gone into this design. The odd hexagonally shaped vegan trimmed 3-spoke wheel with its thin gear selector stalk angled up just behind, the contrasting coloured door armrests, and on this top model, the triangular Harman Kardon speakers at the outer edges of the fascia top. The centre console doesn't meet the centre stack here, and that gives a pleasingly spacious front of cabin vibe. And then there's the feature, of course, that Renault keeps wanting to talk about, but which is actually restricted to this expensive iconic trim level, which is one that not many customers are going to want to stretch to, namely this solar bay panoramic glass roof. Now, this replaces the need for a blind with clever but hardly groundbreaking 𝗙cie technology. Now, this uses a combination of polymer dispersed liquid crystals to change the opacity of the glass one segment at a time. Also contributing to the trendy vibe are the strange slashed graphics on the 12.3-inch instrument screen, which oddly cuts off part of the second speed digit displayed alongside a 28-degree orientated speed line, which changes colour according to speed and power demand. The screen's central section can show either a nav map, a drive assist graphic, or a charge eco power meter, while the section on the right, that can be customised to show your radio selection, an eco monitor, trip data, range, or a consumption readout. Like the display next to it, the screen changes color based on your multi-sense drive mode selection from this circular button here just beneath the right-hand wheel spoke. Blue-themed comfort, green-tinged eco, and red-orientated sport, and purple-themed perso. Everything else you'll need to know can of course be found on this big 12-inch open-R portrait-style central infotainment monitor, which Renault boasts can feature more than 50 apps. There's a dedicated virtual button for accessing these along the screen's top frame, alongside shortcuts for car, phone and music functions. Plus there's a home button too, which always returns you to this segmented screen, which is dominated by a navigation map with customizable widget sections below for frequently used functions, boxes which can be minimized by clicking on the central arrow. A row of virtual climate buttons sit just below, which thankfully sit just above a row of physical ventilation buttons. There's an intuitive Google Assistant voice control with 70 natural voice prompts, and as you'd expect, there's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and over-the-air updates too. Aside from screens, there are some nice touches we really liked. The seats are quite naturally positioned, not as high set as in some other EVs of this size, and have lumbar support along, more unusually, with a screen selectable relax position. Now this includes a massage function and allows you to instantly recline into a favourite position as you maybe use the downloadable Vivaldi browser perhaps to watch streaming services like YouTube, Netflix or Disney Plus while you're charging. There is also a 48 colour ambient lighting system. Now this can automatically adapt its colours to the time of day. There's also an air quality screen section with auto air recycling and an air purifier that reduces odours by 30 to 70% and absorbs over 75% of harmful gases. The central armrest here slides by 70mm, and on this top model you get a strong sounding 410 watt Harman Kardon sound system and a digital rear view mirror, which not everyone likes, but which you may find alleviates a rather restricted rearward view that's somewhat obscured by the back headrests and the narrow rear screen. We're not quite so keen on this abrasive upholstery on the cheap feeling keycard or on the clammy vegan leather stitched onto the steering wheel here, although at least the said wheel has a dedicated audio stalk, so you're not fishing around on the central screen every time you want to alter audio volume or change a track. It's one of no fewer than 3 stalks on the right hand side of the wheel here, which you might initially find to be quite a complicated arrangement until you get used to that. Those stalks do have a bit of a cheap feel with plenty of play in their movement. That is disappointing in a cabin that's otherwise designed to deliver quite an upmarket feel. Renault's preference for shiny, easily scratchable and smudgeable piano black plastic trimming, that doesn't help it here. This model's MPV roots are referenced by the prodigious levels of cabin storage. There's 38.7 litres of it in total, including a big 4-litre glove box, at last on a right-hand drive Renault, a big glove box, along with deep flock-lined door bins and a large 3.4-litre compartment under the sliding central armrest, although the brand hasn't thought to cool that space for the storage of chocolate or drinks. There's a small compartment at the end of the console where you're supposed to store the keycard, and another small cubby juts out from just under the ventilation controls here below the central screen that incorporates a wireless phone charging mat. Lower down is a segmented area with twin silver removable separators. Take them out and you could probably fit a handbag in there. There's also a cup holder and a shallow tray just behind. There are the usual USB-C charge ports, and you get ticket clips in the sun visors. What will really appeal to families though is the amount of space in the rear. Previous generation Scenics could also be had in a stretched Grand Scenic form with space for a third seating row, but there doesn't seem to be any plans for that kind of format with this electric model. That's surprising given that Peugeot is doing really good business for 7-seat EV buyers with its E5008. So let's take a seat inside. where thanks to 2,784mm of wheelbase, there's 278mm of legroom and 884mm of headspace. Two 6-footers will have plenty of room to stretch out, and even a third centre-seated adult won't have too many compromises in headroom or in leg space, thanks to this bespoke EV platform's flat floor. Renault's included what it calls an ingenious rear armrest, which has 3.6 litres of storage, a pair of USB-C ports and two cup holders with fold-out stands that enable occupants to watch screens on their devices more comfortably. It's back here too that you'll get the most benefit if your Scenic has been fitted with this solar bay panoramic glass roof, which, when it's not opaque, provides for an airier vibe. And because it's 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹liche tech, negates the need for the usual sliding blind, 30mm of headspace has been saved. And we've seen this kind of tech before, but what's different here is that passengers in the back can lighten or opacify the roof in their area without affecting occupants in the front. Apart from the solar bay system switch, this setup can also work via the central screen's Google Assistant voice control through any of 4 roof settings: full light, full opaque, light at the front but opaque at the back, and the reverse of that. You will be disappointed if you come expecting the individually adjustable sliding rear seats, which used to characterise a Scenic when it was a full MPV. The fact that this EV model's big battery pack is double stacked below this bench here, that put paid to that, although the backrests could still have been designed to recline like they do in a rival Hyundai Ioniq 5, but they haven't been. In the centre are twin vents and a pair of USB-C ports, although surprisingly there isn't an option for separated climate controls back here. Nice touches include these 2 upper phone storage areas above the main seat back pockets, and for family folk who pay extra, Renault will also include what it calls a seat organiser. It's a bit like a backpack attached to the front seat back. You would think side window blinds would be available too, but the door cards do at least incorporate huge storage bins. Let's finish as usual with a look out back, and now you'll have to fit everything in back here because unlike some rivals like the Ioniq 5 or the Tesla Model Y, there's no provided front space for the charging leads beneath the bonnet. The powered tailgate arises to reveal a 545-litre boot. That's about the same as you get in a rival Volkswagen ID4, but not huge by class standards, about 40 litres less than you'd find in a Skoda Enyaq or a Peugeot E3008. Still, 7 carry-on suitcases will fit. There's a deep 38-litre underfloor well for those charging leads, with shallow underfloor compartments just ahead of that. Above the cargo base, there are 4 tie-down points. There are bag hooks on both sides, and there's this dim light on the right alongside a 12-volt socket. The backrest has a convenient 40-20-40 split, so long items like skis could be pushed forward between 2 rear-seated passengers. With everything flattened, it is a bit of an uneven space and it's heavily stepped, so sliding in really heavy items might be difficult. Still, the area provided is very large, up to 1,670 litres in size. From launch and at the time of our test in summer 2024, Scenic E-Tech electric pricing started at around the £37,500 mark, but that only gets you the smaller 60 kWh battery, comfort range, 170 horsepower model that few will want. That only comes with base techno trim. For the bigger, long range, 87 kWh battery and 220 horsepower electric motor output you'll probably need in this car, well, prices start from around £41,000 for base techno trim. Add a further £2,500 for mid-level Esprit Alpine trim, which features sporting cues inspired by the company's performance brand, and at the time of filming you'd have needed around about £45,500 for the top iconic version that we're trying here. So how does that kind of pricing position this car in its segment? Well, actually very well. If we use the volume version, the base long range model as a pricing benchmark, or the most direct mainstream brand mid-sized EV rivals are less practically sized, and nearly all of them offer less driving range too. To better this Renault's 379-mile figure, you'd have to spend £8,000 to £9,000 more on a Polestar 2 long-range single motor, that's a hatch with a much smaller boot, or a long-range Tesla Model 3, which is a saloon. Even rivals you might expect to be more affordable aren't, like Škoda's Enyaq, which in comparable 77 kWh 85 form costs around £2,000 more and has 28 miles less EV range. That Škoda's engineering is shared by the Volkswagen ID.4, which has the same battery and costs from over £44,000. So, what about other strong sellers in the segment that you might be considering? Well, if you want a comparable Tesla hatch, you'll need that brand's Model Y, or maybe not actually, in base rear-driven standard range form. As we filmed, one of those would cost around £45,000 and would offer nearly 100 miles less EV range than this Renault. Even a £53,000 long-range Model Y can only go 331 miles between charges. What about something Korean then? Well, a Kia EV6 costs from around £45,000 and is around 50 miles off this Renault's EV range. A similarly engineered 77.4 kilowatt-hour Hyundai Ioniq 5 costs from around £47,000 as we filmed, and was even further off from this Scenic in terms of EV range. You might also be looking in this segment at EVs like the Toyota BZ4X and the Volvo EX40. Well, comparable base versions of those cost from around £46,000 as we filmed and couldn't offer you an EV range figure even beginning with a 3. Enough said. Also at around £46,000 is this Renault's French counterpart, the Peugeot E3008. Although that isn't as spacious in the rear as this Scenic, and it has a 326-mile range. Ford's Mustang Mach-E, if you're interested, well, that costs well over £50,000 in its most basic 75 kilowatt-hour rear-driven form, and in that guise can only take you up to 273 miles between charges. Finally, we don't have time here really to cover the premium brand models, which you could choose, of course, in this segment. Suffice to say that cars like the BMW iX1, the Mercedes EQA, the Audi Q4 e-tron, they're all smaller, they all cost more, and they'll take you fewer miles between charges. All of which might leave you feeling quite encouraged about the prospect of choosing a Scenic E-Tech Electric. If so, then the deal might well be sealed if Renault were able to offer you plenty of standard equipment here. So let's take a closer look at that right now. 3 distinct trim levels make up the range, starting, as we said earlier, with base Techno trim. Its standard specification includes 19-inch streamline diamond-cut alloy wheels and front and rear full LED lights, electric flush door handles, flush roof bars, a shark fin antenna, electric folding door mirrors and logo puddle lights. Plus there's also front and rear park assist sensors and an electric boot. The interior is marked out by a 12.3-inch driver information display and a 12-inch open-R multimedia screen. And that's powered by Google services with Google Maps, Google Assistant and Google Play Store. Now, this central monitor offers a vast choice of up to 50 apps, including Waze, Amazon Music, Spotify, Easy Park, radio player, a Vivaldi browser via which you can watch YouTube, Netflix or Disney Plus, and our absolute favourite, Song Pop for Renault, where passengers can try to name tunes by tapping the answers into their smartphones. Over-the-air updates keep the open-R system fully up to date, while wireless smartphone replication and a wireless smartphone charger ensure that drivers are always connected. Also included as standard are automatic air conditioning, a frameless electrochromatic rearview mirror, a rearview camera, heat for the front seats and for the steering wheel, paddle shifters for regenerative braking, automatic wipers, a multi-sense mode system with ambient lighting and an ingenious rear armrest. Want more? Then mid-level 𝗙cie Alpine trim offers a sporty look and feel with 20-inch Speedway diamond cut alloy wheels, 𝗙cie Alpine exterior badging with satin grey detailing and an upgraded interior. Now that includes bespoke heated sports seats with blue stitching and recycled upholstery. There's a fabric dashboard, an 𝗙cie Alpine heated steering wheel, blue carpeting, blue detailing in the storage compartments, and also blue door panel inserts. Here, as we mentioned earlier, we've got the top iconic version, identifiable by these 20-inch Oracle diamond cut alloy wheels, which is the version you're going to need if you want one of the Scenic 𝗙𝗋𝗋 signature design touches, and that's Renault's clever solar bay opacifying panoramic sunroof. Iconic spec also gets you an electric driver's seat with a massage function, a Harman Kardon sound system with 9 speakers, light fabric seats again made with recycled materials, a hands-free parking system, a 360-degree rear camera and a smart rear-view mirror. The soft fabric dashboard here features linden wood trim picked from sustainable forests, and there's ambient lighting which adjusts in step with human circadian rhythms to reflect the time of day. So it's cool during sunlight and it's warmer at night. Really lovely. Across the range, customers will be able to pair 6 exterior paint choices with a grey or black gloss roof to create a two-tone effect. We have Arctic white with a black diamond roof here. Various accessories are available. Your dealer will want you to consider one of the available optional packs here. The storage pack, for example, includes a vertical net for the rear seat, plus a magnetic vent-mounted smartphone holder and a rear tray table. There's also an EV pack with a domestic charging cable and a double boot floor for cable storage. There's a protection pack. Now that'll give you illuminated door sills and a boot liner. And there's a family pack too, which gives you a seat organizer. It's a bit like a backpack attached to the front seat back, along with a child seat protector and kick mat. You can also specify premium carpet mats, mud guards, and the longitudinal roof bars that will allow you to add a bike rack or a roof box. It's 480 litres in size, incidentally. And there are 4 different colour options for the door mirror casings. Various tow bar packs are available, and that will allow you to add a cycle carrier onto the back too. Plus you can also add a spare wheel kit and a dash cam. Safety has been prioritised with over 30 driver assistance systems and onboard safety features. These include intelligent contextual adaptive cruise control, traffic and speed sign recognition, driver attention alert, warning anticipation, distance warning alert, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, lane centering, and active emergency braking system with pedestrian and cyclist detection and blind spot warning. There's active driver assist, which regulates your speed by taking the road environment into account, maintaining safe distances, ensuring that you stay in lane, and automatically slowing the car for you in traffic queues before automatically starting it off again when traffic ahead moves off. There's rear cross parking alert, which warns you of approaching vehicles when you're reversing out of a space. There's also occupant safe exit alert, which warns occupants who are about to open their doors in the face of an oncoming vehicle or cyclist. And there's front and rear detection with emergency trajectory correction systems. Now, these, when you're changing lanes, warn you of a potential collision with an overtaking vehicle in the adjacent lane. Renault has thought beyond camera safety tech too, which you'll be thankful for if you've paid any attention to scare stories about EVs catching fire. There's a high voltage cutout switch in the rear compartment, as well as a hole for a firefighter to connect a hose to. Now Renault says that that will flood the battery with enough water to extinguish a fire in 10 minutes. A QR code that you can activate via a sticker in the rear window will show a rescue operative where everything is. All very reassuring. As we've said elsewhere in this film, this Renault's quoted EV range figures are very competitive indeed in segment, up to 260 miles with the base comfort range variant and up to 379 miles for a long-range model like this one. When we first tested Renault's first EV, the Megane E-Tech, we were disappointed by just how far its real-world EV mileage figures were from the quoted stats. With this Scenic E-Tech, things have been a bit better on that front, no doubt aided by the fact that this larger model's battery uses different 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹𝟎 nickel manganese cobalt technology, which is claimed to have a 6% higher energy density than the battery used in the Megane E-Tech. Even so, it shouldn't come as any surprise to learn that you'll still struggle to get very close to the quoted official stats in day-to-day motoring. Obviously, for the best possible returns, you'll need to keep the most frugal of the provided drive modes, that's eco, regularly engaged, and you'll have to use the fiercest of the provided brake regen settings too. In the cold weather, it'll help that a heat pump is standard here. That draws heat from the surrounding ambient air, that takes the pressure off the heating fan. Other tools to help you get near to the quoted mileage include an eco section in the center screen's My Driving section. This scores the frugality of your driving and it provides energy consumption data too. According to this, we have averaged 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour during this test. The Google-based journey planner that's built into the car's OpenR infotainment system, that can even consider wind direction and speed to predict energy consumption. As for other efficiency driving tools, well, there is a selectable eco monitor display for the instrument screen. The OpenR central screen also has an energy monitor, so you can see at any given time what's being powered by what. So how does the range figure on offer here from this typical long-range model position this Renault in its segment? Well, pretty well, as you might already know if you viewed other sections of this film. Several similarly priced competitors, Toyota's BZ4X, Volvo's EX40 and rear-driven versions of the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Tesla Model Y can't even crack the 300-mile barrier. Several more can't get within 50 miles of this long-range variant's EV figure. For example, a base Tesla Model 3, a Peugeot E3008, or the 77 kilowatt-hour versions of Hyundai's Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. At the 350-mile level or just below are the Skoda Enyaq 85, the Volkswagen ID4 and the Polestar 2 standard range single motor. You'll need a Tesla Model 3 long range or a Polestar 2 long range single motor to better this Renault showing in this class, and those two rivals do cost substantially more. These days though, charging speeds are becoming almost as important as that EV driving range. This Renault doesn't have the advanced 800-volt electrical infrastructure which you will find with the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 in this segment. They allow use of the new generation of super fast, ultra rapid DC public chargers, nor does its 400-volt electrical system lead the field in terms of DC charging speed, rated at 150 kilowatts for the long range or 130 kilowatts for the comfort range model. Still, that is enough for this long-range model's 87 kilowatt-hour battery to DC charge at a public fast charging station from 15 to 80% in 37 minutes. It's 32 minutes for the smaller 60 kilowatt-hour comfort range battery. An AC 3-phase charging system supplying up to 22 kilowatts comes included. Plug in using this at a 22 kilowatt AC public charging station using a mode 3 cable, and you'd need 3 hours for a 15 to 80% long range battery charge, or half that with the comfort range battery. The OpenR central screen's electric journey planner will allow you to plan journeys between public chargers of any kind and can give you some information on the availability and the power of the charging points in each location. The software even uses weather information to help more accurately predict your remaining range. Once you've chosen a route between your charging stations, automatic presetting of the battery temperature takes place for planned stops, and that results in faster charging. When you do park up to charge, the powered seats can shift to a more relaxed position and perform massages. The ambient lighting, the USB chargers, the infotainment and the glass roof remain powered up for 45 minutes. What about AC charging at home? Well, a typical 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box will need 8 hours 27 minutes for a 15 to 80% charge, a fraction over 6 hours for the same level of charge with the Comfort Range battery. If your home or office has a 3-phase supply and you can use an 11 kilowatt wall box, then a full charge will require 9 hours for the long range battery and 6 hours 30 minutes for the Comfort Range model. If you're somewhere without a wall box, say at a friend's house or a B&B, and you have to charge using a 3.7 kilowatt domestic socket with a 3-pin cable that Renault charges extra for, then a 15 to 8% charge will take, of course, a yawningly long time, 17 hours 51 minutes for the long range battery and 11 hours 36 minutes for the Comfort Range model. As usual with an EV, you can preset charging times, either using the electric section of the OpenR central screen or the provided Renault app. The AC cost of replenishing the battery might not be as low as you might have expected. A full charge for this 87 kilowatt hour long range battery has set us back about £25. When you're out and about and DC charging, an average charging cost of 79 pence per kilowatt hour would see a 10 to 80% charge costing around £46. If you're converting to an electric vehicle from a previous combustion model, then you'll obviously have to factor in the cost of an EV charger for your house and perhaps also, of course, for your office. There is still complexity around the best charging hardware to choose and who is actually eligible for a government grant. And obviously the costs can vary depending on your distance from your main meter to the charger and other factors too. There's lots of advice out there, of course, to guide you. We consulted plugmein.com, who offer customers everything from choice of charger to installation and ongoing maintenance. They advised us that even with increased energy prices, the cost of running an EV and charging it at home on a dedicated tariff is still only around half the cost of running your previous petrol or diesel car. What else? Well, as usual with an EV, you get a low 2% benefit in kind taxation rate, a free first year VED road licence and free entry to the London ULEZ and congestion zones. Bear in mind this is all going to be reviewed in 2025 though. Insurance groupings aren't as high as they are for some other EVs. They start from Group 28 for the Comfort Range model and rise up to Group 32 for the long range variants. Residual values are respectable by EV standards. Experts predict 54% of retained value after 3 years and 36,000 miles. Service intervals, they're every 18,000 miles. The warranty is a bit disappointing, just 3 years, although the mileage limit is extended from the usual Renault 60,000 mile figure to 100,000 miles. You can extend the warranty at extra cost, although you shouldn't really have to do that. The battery is covered by its own 8-year, 100,000 mile warranty. The French maker also plans to reuse Scenic batteries for storing energy produced by wind turbines and solar fields, so a second life that can last from 6 to 10 years. At the end of its life, the battery begins its recycling phase by being disassembled and the structural elements extracted. Plastic, materials and cables are all sent separately to their respective recycling facilities. The modules are also processed in facilities dedicated to lithium-ion technology, so that is good to know. Lots of boxes have been ticked by this stylish Gallic contender for drive range, innovation, media tech and practicality, although the designers ought to have allowed for a 7-seat Model 2. And although performance isn't exactly electrifying, it drives better than we expected as well. The cabin isn't quite as premium as its maker thinks it is, but you might well forgive that in view of the interior's sustainably fashionable design. It's nice to see Renault returning to a spirit of innovation. Instead of slavishly following the crossover SUV genre championed by virtually all its lower mid-sized EV family rivals, the Scenic E-Tech Electric goes its own way, and it's all the better for it. Nothing's too radical here, but there are some genuinely clever design innovations, like the solar bay roof and that multi-purpose rear armrest. And it's all presented with fashionable exterior packaging that we think the market will really like. Will that market like this car enough, though, to pay the prices Renault wants to charge here? Well, the brand talks of positioning the Scenic E-Tech Electric in the vanguard of what it calls phase 2 of the battery car revolution, EV adoption for the masses. Well, that's not going to happen with a car of this price, but the company's secondary objective, which is to make a car that doesn't force people into compromising, looks as though it may have been met here. And in that respect, at least, this model is a true Scenic.